Well, hello, and welcome to lesson 4. We're going to be talking about key signature, circle of fifths, and scales, how these things are related, their relevance and usefulness. By the end of the lesson, we're also going to be able to create our own circle of fifths. As a prerequisite, I would recommend that you first do your scales lesson number 3, because that's going to tie into what we're doing. Okay, so when we refer to key or key signature, we're talking about which scale we're trying to build a song off of. Okay, so let's start by looking at a piece of music and notice that we've got at the very beginning, by the treble clef and the bass clef there respective, you've got 4 sharps, right? So in this case, F, C, G, D. Okay, and it's the same in the bass clef, F, C, G, D. Now, what that's telling us is that those 4 notes are always sharp unless otherwise indicated. And I say that this is a shorthand because on the piano, you've got 7 1/3 octaves, okay? I can't even fit all that in this picture, right? Okay, so rather than write the F sharp 7 times, instead they put it once in each clef, okay? Now maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense, but remember that key signature is just telling us which scale, and when we play a scale, no matter where we play it and no matter which octave, we're always going to use the same sharps. Well, let's take a look at a little piece of a song here, and maybe this will make more sense to some people, and especially to those learning by ear, because that's going to be relevant for you guys too, because what you're going to find with most songs is what you're going to find is it's going to be the same pattern of black keys that repeats, okay? Or the same pattern of sharps or flats that repeats. Now, so let's do a little Adele. I'm going to stop a minute, and what I want you to see is I'm always using the F, the same sharps, F, the G and the F, the C, the G, and there is a scale, the A major scale, that contains the same 3 sharps, the F, the C, and the G. So no matter which octave we play that scale, it has the same 3 sharps, okay? Cool. So let's look at that set of sharps in this song. Okay, now they kind of gave us a little cheat here because they told us it's in the key of E major. But what if we didn't know that? Well, we could look at the last sharp in the key signature, which happens to be a D sharp. Let's go to the piano. What is a half step above D sharp? That's an E. E major is the key. Now, you've probably heard of minor keys. Maybe you've heard of them. We're not going to go into that this week. We're just not going to go into this lesson next time. Okay, so we're going to stick simple. We're going to stick with the majors. Let's talk about flats. When you see flats in a key signature, how do you determine the key or what scale that this piece is based off of? Well, let's see, we've got 3. We've got B, E, and A flats, okay? So, the rule is different for flats. We're going to use the second to last flat, which happens to be E flat. So this song is an E flat. getting down with you. Okay, so, oh, but look at that. Now it changed from 3 flats to 2 flats. We would call that a key change. And now the new key, well, the second to last flat is B flat. So therefore the new key is B flat major. Okay? All right. So now the circle of fifths business. Well, let's take a look at it. Circle of fifths. Now, the reason some people are going to like this is because it's the easiest way to figure out what sharps or flats are in a given scale. So let's say that you did your homework and you learned all of your scales, but man, you just can't remember. Does the E flat scale, does it have 3 flats or 2 flats? I don't remember, right? Okay, maybe you can't remember if it's 3 or 4 or 2. So this thing is really helpful, super helpful. Okay, so all right, so let's ignore these minors. Let's just look at the circles, the circled keys. Okay, so C major at the top, we've got no sharps and no flats at C major there, right? No sharps and no flats. Then going around this is going clockwise. We're moving up by a fifth to G major. Now I've got 1 sharp. Oh look, now we go up another fifth from G to D. We've got 2 sharps. Look at D to A is another fifth. Now we've got 3 sharps. A to E is another fifth. We've got 4 sharps. And it just keeps going until you get to 7 sharps, which is all the sharps we can do. But yeah, if we look at the piano here, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5th note of the C scale is G. Thus the C to G move. And then the, let's see, G, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G to D. G to D, that's our next fifth. D to A is the next fifth. We're at 3 sharps. E is the next fifth at 4 sharps. B at 5 sharps. Okay, so something funny happens here from B. F sharp. Okay, why? Because when we get to B, and we do our whole, half, whole, we end up going from white to black to make our 5th. Okay, so we are in fact going from B to F sharp, just like this says. Okay, now 6 sharps. Oh, look at that. 7 sharps is C sharp. Now you're probably wondering, what is all this extra gunk? We'll explain that in a minute. This is called enharmonic keys. So let's talk about flats. Now that we've talked about sharps and going around by sharps, let's go the other way. Okay, so though, it's going to be the same principle that when you go clockwise, you're going by fifths. So you look at that. F to C is a 5th, isn't it? B flat to F is a 5th. But let's just say that our brains don't go backwards so well. So let's instead flip those 5ths, and when you flip a 5th, it makes a 4th. Okay? So, yep. So C to F, that's a 4th. We're going to add a flat. F to B flat, going up another 4th, right? Because remember how when we did the F position, yeah, C 1, 2, 3, 4, C to F. Remember when we did F position, 2, 3, 4. If you've ever done F position, you know the 4th note is a B flat. Okay? Now, B flat to E flat is the next 4th. We've got 3 flats. E flat to A flat. Now we got 4 flats. And guess what happens? When we get to 5 flats, that is going to be D flat. Oh, and guess what? C sharp and D flat are really the same scale. The same key, just 2 different names. Okay? Like Dan and Daniel. You remember from previous lessons we talked about how some keys have 2 names? Okay, so there you go. And then kind of we have the same thing here, F sharp and G flat. B major and C flat are the same key, just one's represented with sharps and the other is represented with a set of flats. Okay, so there are 3 keys like that, which we call enharmonic keys that have 2 names. Okay, so let's get brave here, and we're going to try to do this on our own without the book open. Okay, so let's start at the top. Okay, so at the top we've got 0, right? Which is the key of C. We got no sharps and no flats. Now, 1 sharp. See, we're moving clockwise. Okay, so what's the 5th? G. Okay, clockwise to the next 5th. And clockwise to the next 5th gives us 3 sharps. And clockwise to the next 5th. Now we're at 4. And now we're at 5 sharps. And sort of at the bottom of the circle here, this is that funky 5th where you gotta land on a black key, right? 6 sharps and 7 sharps. So now we're going black to black from F sharp to C sharp. Okay, and that's about all we can do with sharps, because now we've made every note of the music alphabet a sharp. We can't sharp anything else. Okay, so now let's talk about flats. Okay, flats, like 1 flat, 2 flat, 3 flat, 4, right? Oh. And when you get, okay, we'll talk about this in a second. So 5 flats and 7 sharps. Remember we were looking at those enharmonic keys? Right, so 5 flats and 7 sharps is the same scale in terms of what notes you play on the piano. Okay. All right, so if we go this way, we're going fifths. But let's flip it, okay, to a 4th, because it's just easier since we're going backwards, right? See, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. C sharp's other name is D flat. F sharp's other name is G flat. B's other name, let's see, 6 flats, 7 flats. We can't flat anything else, right? C flat. Okay, so now how do we know which things to sharp or flat? We know how many things, we know how many notes to sharp or flat for each of these given keys, right? Each of these given key signatures. We know that the key of G is going to have 1 sharp, the key of D will have 2 sharps, and so on, right? So this is the order of sharps: F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Okay, always the same order every time, no matter how many sharps are in that key signature. So if you have 1 sharp, it's going to be F. If you have 2 sharps, it's going to be F and C. If you have 3 sharps, it's going to be F, C, and G. Get it? 7 will be F, C, G, D, A, E, B. In that order. It always follows the same order. Okay. So, let's say that we were looking at A here with 3 sharps. It's got to be F, C, and G. Yeah, right. So that will allow us to play that Adele tune, right? Okay. Now, what about flats? Okay, so what you do is you flip this thing for your order of flats. Just flip it exactly backwards, like, you know, B, E, A, D, G, C, F. I'm just going to write it. Okay, so if you only have 1 flat, like F, the key of F has only 1 flat. It's going to be B flat. So these are flats. These are sharps. If you have 2 flats, that's not a very good 2, but if you have 2 flats, such as the key of B flat, your flats are B and E. If you have 3 flats, it's B, E, A. What key is it that has 3 flats? Oh, E flat has. See, doesn't this make it easy? And yes, you can still do your scales, doing whole, you know, all that business of the wholes and the halves, you know, whole step, half step, whole step. But yeah, I mean, easy to make a mistake. This thing is a little less error prone, I think. So I leave you with that. Next lesson we're going to be talking about transposing, so we'll take a song from one key and move it to another. That might be helpful when you're working with a vocalist, for example, who maybe they can't sing high or sing low, and it works out better in a different key. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Hope you learned something. Have a great day.